Welcome back. I'm Crystal Wright, VP of PR for Paysafe, and today's guest is Kenneth Upchurch, our Global Head of Automation. Welcome, Ken.
So happy to be here.
Yeah.
This is great.
Well, good. Thanks for joining me. And, AI is everywhere. We're hearing it in the news daily. You can't get away from it. And also, everybody says if a company is not embracing AI, they're going to be left behind. So do you agree with that? And if you agree with it, which I'm thinking you do, why? Tell us about that.
Actually, I would surprise you. I don't agree with it in reality. I think it's, when you look at AI in the current marketplace, you look at the types of companies that use it, it has to be a culture fit. First and foremost, AI is not for every culture and not for every organization. I think that there's a high adoption level. I mean, we probably could see anywhere around 80% adoption level in most companies in the U.S., but it's not for every company. They have their own separate DNA. Some companies and small businesses don't effectively see AI as a tool that they need to be successful. And I think that when you look at the marketplace and you see how people are presenting to smaller businesses as they're trying to grab, potential market share in that, they're having to kind of look at how it's going to evolve and help that person or that smaller company versus, what we see in adoption at Paysafe.
So do you think it depends on the industry a company is working in, whether or not they're going to leverage AI? And obviously you said the size and the culture fit.
Yeah, there's a lot of culture around AI. We've seen it evolve in the last 10 years. A little more, I joke around with a lot of folks in the organization. I say, well, what day of the week is it? And I'll tell you what the culture is for AI. It matters based off of whether or not they can adopt it, if they have the strength to adopt it. The technologies lend helping hands in certain different ways. Case in point, lead generation, AI has evolved in the last 2 years more so as we've emerged from COVID, right? And you look at how you're using all these types of tools to be able to build your portfolio, look at companies that you otherwise wouldn't had a chance to send a service rep out to find that type of organization. So from my perspective, I think that, AI can be adopted well in a company like Paysafe and organizations of this size, but, some organizations just don't have the strength to be able to, compete in this marketplace right now.
Yeah, integrate it into their business. So that brings us to Paysafe. We're here in our Jacksonville office today. How is Paysafe?
Lovely office, by the way.
It is lovely. I like coming here. And I like working from here. So how is Paysafe using AI right now? And the second part of that question is, how is it going to make us more competitive with our merchant customers and our consumers?
Very interesting question. So Paysafe's using AI in multiple different areas of the businesses. You can go all the way out to merchants, operations. You look at risk management, how we're looking at, threat management as well, InfoSec. Automation, we have it embedded in everything that we do and then you look at, how we're developing it across the organization. We're trying to build and get it talking to each other. And that's how we're evolving as an organization when we look at how we're building certain components in the automation group. I think what we're seeing is a high level degree of adoption of new technologies here, which is great. It's good for our stack. We're kind of molding to a more transformed way of how we're dealing with AI essentially. So, I look at it and where is it going to take us? How do we get a smart stack talking to each other? And I think that's where you start seeing, where we have like Ask Paysafe.
Yeah, which I pilot tested, by the way, before
and you've been one of my top users, by the way. That's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's really great. I was hesitant about using AI as a PR professional initially, but I've really leaned into it and embraced it, and it makes me more efficient and my team. And when you did the rollout of Ask Paysafe internally, I mean, it's wonderful. And the feedback that, you had from employees pilot testing it really made it even stronger and better. But as a person who is a skeptic, I gotta say, it's when you
There's always
leverage it.
those,
Yeah, but like you said, we're leveraging it for risk for across our org, and it makes us more nimble and efficient. So, I love it. I'm a huge fan of Ask Paysafe.
I'm so happy you said that. I would first and foremost say that I can't take the credit. I have a wonderful team behind me. Caroline team, they've done such great work. They've been working on this project for 18 months. In their opinion, they came out of a conference last year and they said, we need to build this. And I just, they brought it to life. Now, with that said, I mean, they've done great work. I'm glad to see that we have an adoption rate. We even saw about 1,700 chats and day before yesterday of new chats coming from folks that are really using the tool.
So how do you think, speaking of employees, you also hear in the news and the headlines everywhere, it's a lot of gloom and doom where, AI is going to take over, it's going to take over employee jobs. But I've seen it complement my work. How would you say what would be your advice to employees of every level of an org? Like, how can it complement human work?
If you're not using automation or AI in your day-to-day, then you're probably doing yourself a disservice. Honestly, we've got folks that are using different types of tools to just their email, how they're using their emails, what I can look from day to day, my calendar, how I'm sorting out my day. I don't have that benefit of having someone figure out where I'm at. I mean, for me, I probably would say you need about 30% of automation in your own and AI in your own daily life to be able to kind of, manage the level of expectation out of us this day and age. So you're really seeing more of I kind of disagree with the doom and gloom type of approach. I'm a heavy adopter. I like the progress. I also see that there is a lot of pushback in society against AI, which is, it's welcome. I don't disagree with some of that, but I think it's great that we can see that we're growing and we understand where AI needs to go. We can put some guardrails on it occasionally to make sure it's going in the right areas. But overall, I think it's making good progress.
So we'll get to guardrails in a minute, but because I have you and I were chatting before the podcast about some fun fiction, I would say movies and such that now it's like reality is following fiction, but we'll get to that in a minute. What any do's and don'ts you could give, listeners or employees, anybody watching about how to use AI, to be, just to, I don't know, be most efficient and effective. Any do's and don'ts?
Don'ts is don't rush so fast into something that you don't quite understand what it will do and impact in the organization. And that is the disclaimer. Now, I will say on the other side, do rush in to things that you like and you are passionate about. You can adopt AI in a way that it really helps you kind of with your day-to-day activities. But, I kind of look at it a different way. I'm one of those that kind of see AI as a way that you can transform yourself into a marketplace and then create experiences that make you feel great about what you're doing. We have folks on my team that have kind of bring to light that they have more of a creativity index, that they would like to see how other teams would react. And it's transformed the way that they've been able to have communication back and forth. And I think for Paysafe, that's been one of the biggest organic growths in the last 3 to 4 months is how we're communicating to each other and getting that information. That's the beauty of why it's here.
Yeah. It really helps you jumpstart brainstorming, I find, too. My team finds, like, when we're trying to brainstorm a title for a blog or a title for a white paper or a new research project we're doing, you save 2 hours. I mean, and obviously, we're not just cutting and pasting, right, from any of this. We're putting our own brain power to it, but it helps jumpstart tasks and goals that you want to achieve. So let's talk a little bit about movies. all sorts of content, cool content that we can find now
Hit me.
with cable and all that
movie
stuff. Okay,
lately?
so I've watched 2 movies that AI is the focus of. Most recently, it was Leave the World Behind, the Netflix film
yeah.
that I'm sure everybody has seen. If you haven't, you got to watch it. And then the other one, so in Leave the World Behind, you have, it's like a foreign enemy of the U.S. has taken over technology, and it's like a slow creep. So people in major cities across the country are kind of like, why can't I do this and that? And then at one point, all the Teslas on this, it's like Long Island or someplace outside of Manhattan, they run into each other, and they're clearly no drivers there, okay? So it's kind of like, it's really good. And then there's the HBO series Westworld,
Right.
where the androids...
First season's better than the second, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. So the android host that look like humans for this human theme park where you can insert yourself and live out any dream that you want, like being in a Western or whatever kind of thing. So eventually the androids take over society, and the humans, which is a little disturbing, I'll say.
Right.
So my question to you is, A, could this really happen? And B, this brings us to what guardrails do we need in place as AI is not going away?
Well, in this world, anything can happen, right?
Don't say that.
Yeah, well, I think the first example you had, it's interesting, right? You can take control of GPSs. That's been going on for 20 years. That's a normal thing of life. I mean, That's in a movie. I think folks can already realize that that's going to be a staple and it's staying around. But, I'm not going to sit here and go down the path of whether or not they fell in good graces by being outside the city when all that happened in the movie, right? They just happened to be at somebody else's mansion that was, I think we were talking about doomsdayers type of approach here. AI is definitely something that we can manage. It only goes as far as we allow it. And I think, once that control mechanism is taken away, then you start having outcomes like that. And that's the reality that we live in. If you keep it in control, then you can kind of push it to the way you want it to go and the breadth you want it to go. And, I like to stay on the optimistic side. So forgive me for trying to bounce around that question. But the optimistic side is, it's being used in healthcare. It's helping with organic procedures, things that we're doing within the marketplace when it comes to, patient triage. We look at it in Paysafe. It's helping us communicate effectively towards each other, which is, I remember statistics in college, like that's 80% of the problem we have when there's breakdown in communication.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's evolving to a point that we're going to start seeing a lot more benefits. There's still things to be written. I mean, Elon, look at him. He's got people commercial spacewalking right now. How could he have done that without AI?
Yeah.
I mean, literally today. And, that's fantastic. We're able to use these types of things to be able to get us to a point that we're adopting it more at a commercial sense and in the private industry.
So before we get to the fun question to close out the podcast, I want to ask you, what do you think is next? Like, what can we look for, maybe 2 to 5 years from now? What's AI going to do next? How is it going to change our lives? The next chapter?
Well, we're in the generative AI chapter right now. So excuse me. We're looking at that. We're kind of coming down on the trough. Where is that going to take us? You look in the development world and the delivery world, we're probably going to see accelerated timelines, in my opinion. You're going to see things come out at a faster rate. And, what lends a helping hand is the consumer market, right? It tends to balance out what we're going to adopt and what we're not going to adopt. I think we're going to see a lot more kind of folks that are more focus group oriented. They use this tool this way, and then you go over here and you're using the tool a different way, but it's the same tool. I think we're just going to see a lot more of that within the next 3 to 4 years. And even quantum's been the hot topic lately. I'd like to see what we could do with quantum here at Paysafe. I think it's been kind of the talk of the town for the last couple of years, and folks are still trying to get their arms around it in our sector, as well as get it out of the educational and where it's sitting right now.
So real quick, it's just quick definition for quantum for those of us who aren't as close to it as, not everybody might not know.
Well, I mean,
not know what you mean by quantum.
It's the next level of computer innovation. You're getting, qubits and all these types of technologies that you're putting together under one roof. I mean, you see these machines, IBM just built one up in New York, which you'd think it would be a little more off-site because of the power consumption and things like that. But, you're using these types of technologies to create heavy computational. And what that does is kind of lends a benefit to, you have companies with higher yields of data that you need to get through and sift through, whether or not that is, risk management. You can even make a case for encryption. We have hackers that love to try to break into things daily. We can use those types of technologies to help stay ahead of them.
Yeah, that's great.
So
cyber attacks, which we know in financial services is a daily concern. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is only going to get, higher and higher. Ransomware, things like that. Those are things that, as a company that we have to look to stay ahead and try to avoid those types of situations.
That's awesome. Well, this has been great. I always like to close out each podcast with an out of the blue question. The guests don't know what I'm going to ask. And this one, I don't know. So my out of the blue question for you is, can you really prove it's you I'm talking to right now? So the last, all this time we spent together, I don't know if I'm really talking to Kenneth Upchurch. Can you prove that you're not like some kind of artificially generated bot or something? I don't know, Ken.
Can you technically prove that in this day and age?
How do we get to the bottom of Kenneth Upchurch, your real identity? I don't know. How are you going to prove it to me?
I still have all my fingers here, so it's not an AI incorporated image, just to show the audience.
No, I can confirm. I think this was Ken talking to us this whole time. Thank you again. This was really fun. I don't know.
No, it's my pleasure.
I love talking about kind of out of the box things that we don't really get to go in depth to on during our day-to-day jobs. But thanks. And you know what, guys? Thank you for joining me, and tune in next time, because you never know who you're going to see.